Prosperity in Black America. What will this require? Is Black business prospering? Are we reaching women and minority-owned businesses? How do we achieve earning parity for wealth for our families? Do our children really have access to education? Will our families have choices for our children? Prison pipelines, mass incarceration, tearing our families apart. A healthcare system not accessible to the masses. The disproportionate termination of Black women from corporate America. When will we actually begin to address what's really at play? How do Black people gain more power to help make these changes? This requires a lot of political will and courage. I'm that provocateur of change. I am Cindi Bright. Welcome to HeartBeat. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to HeartBeat. It is Cindi Bright, your host this evening. Thank you for joining. We're excited tonight to be able to bring to you a conversation with one of our prestigious sisters who is the CEO of FMS Global Strategies. She's Paula Sardinas, who is a lobbyist down in Olympia here in the state of Washington, doing a tremendous amount of work on behalf of the community and for all of us. And so we are excited that we're going to get to hear from her this evening, just to get kind of like a legislative update, what happened from her perspective while she was down there. What are some of the bills that she got through and got passed, and all of that stuff. Before we bring her in, though, let me bring in co-hosts with me tonight. Erin Jones is joining me tonight. Stephanie Coverson is here with me tonight. Welcome back, ladies. How are you this evening?
Doing good. I'm excited to hear about all that happened during the session.
Yeah, same. How you doing, Erin?
It's been a rough day.
I saw that with you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to some things in the second half. I was briefly before the show, I was telling Sam, who is our producer on the show, I was telling her I was trying to find some positive things to come out, and I just started scrolling through my feed, and I was like, oh my God, it's just, where do you find the positive? There's just so much chaos happening around us, but we'll get to that second half. Let's introduce in Ms. Paula Sardinas, who we have the privilege of having her representing us down in Olympia. And Paula, welcome back. She's been on HeartBeat a few times, and so I'm always grateful to have her come in and share her perspective. How are you, Queen? How are you doing this evening?
I am rested. Just got back from 10 days off after a record-setting session with the Cabo. Hung out with some of my Link sisters in Beverly Hills, so it is good to see you all.
Good. Do you want to just, we were just going to turn it over to you so that you could just kind of give us an update on what took place this past legislative session. I saw a lot of photos with you, bills getting signed, and I know you had a lot of exciting things to share. So what would you like to share with the community about some of the work that got done this year?
Well, first of all, happy Black Women's History Month to the three of you, because a lot of people don't realize that this is Black Women's History Month, and Black women are making history. There are not a lot of Black women operating in this space during the month of session this year, and an even year is 60 days. And so there are three important things I want to hit off. Number one, so it is a 60-day session. We had more bills this session that we saw in the longer session. It was a supplemental session, meaning that we had a supplemental budget session where they came into session saying, we're not going to spend as much money. We don't have as much money to spend. Don't bother asking us for a lot. On top of that, we had 6 initiatives filed by the Republican Party, which made it equally more challenging. And so when I say there are not a lot of Black people doing this, I am the only lobbyist who owns her own firm that is PDC registered. The difference between a lobbyist and a person that works for government relations is government relations professionals are hired by companies to represent their voices. I own my business. I'm 100% woman-owned, Black-owned. I have my own roster of clients. I'm state registered and federally registered representing the community. So Cindi, this session, we worked on 377 bills. More than 100 of those bills crossed and went to the governor's office for signature. In addition to, we had a record-setting 11 budget provisos. And I don't do this often because I think it's kind of tacky, but I always say people talk about the work. We do the work. We don't even go to all of our bill signings because we're too busy. But yeah, we about that life. Well, we showed up and Jay signed all of these bills. So it's not about talking about what you do, it's what you do. We do the work that gets bills signed into law by the governor that change lives for the Black and brown community in Washington. So let's get at it. Let's talk. Yeah. And we have, and look, Aaron, and we got the pins to show for it, okay? Tell your other guests I said, do that. Do that. Do that. Not one or two. We have a whole bill, pin signing drawer because that's how many bills Black women are down there passing. That part. That part.
That part. I'm gonna let my co-host. You want to start, Aaron or Stephanie?
I think what was the bill that you were most excited about? I got to be down there quite a few times this year.
Oh my God. Aaron, I love that question. There are so many because bills don't happen in a vacuum. Some of these bills have been the culmination of years of work. One of them, and I pulled up, I have my cheat sheet. I have to pull it up, was a hate crime bill that we've worked on with Senator Valdez over many, many years, trying to make sure that when racist things happen, whether you are Black, whether you are gay, or whether you're a woman, that you have a way to report that. This bill, I think we worked on over a period of 6 years. And every single time we brought it, even though, and Cindi and I talk about this, Democrats have all of the power, the bill always died. Well, we finally were able to get that bill passed into law after our 5th try. Again, this bill was brought by Senator Valdez. It was a 5427, Senate Bill 5427, concerning people that have been targeted by hate crimes. Also, Senate Bill 6040, Cindi talks about small businesses. I own a small business. We know one of the biggest problems in owning your small business is how we are paid. A lot of times when you are a minority contractor, they don't care about paying you net 120. You'd be lucky if they pay you net 180. Senate Bill 6040 is a prompt pay bill. That means that you have to be paid within 10 days of the work being accepted and completed. Yes. We did stakeholder sessions at Tabor 100. We held 3 of those during the interim. And the number one message I heard from subcontractors was, we ain't getting paid. We don't care about getting the contract, Paula. When we get it, they're not going to pay us. And so we brought Senate Bill 6040, again, sponsored by Senator Javier Valdez, and these names will become synonymous with you over and over concerning the prompt payment in public works contracts. Meaning if you get a contract from the state, the city, the county, a port, they now, once they accept it and you have done the work and the work is satisfactorily completed, they have to promptly pay you. We also did 5819, making financial education and instruction available. We did an LFO bill, wiping away debt for our students, where that debt has followed them in the criminal justice system, and those Black men, especially Latino men and Indigenous men, are being reincarcerated, and it's creating systems of recidivism. We worked on that with Stand for Children, so we were able to do that with Senator Noel Frame, wiping out those debts, but also creating some funding through the Washington State court system to make sure the courts are not backed up, Aaron, and they can remove that debt. We did a $3 million proviso for Stand for Children, making sure that we can continue 9th grade student success. It is the 9th grade that is most critical for our children. It is where if they matriculate in 9th grade, you don't have to worry about 10th, 11th, and 12th because they are not going to graduate. We have 58 success centers throughout Washington State. We know it works and we've got the data, but we needed $3 million to continue the funding. Kia Franklin is an African-American woman leading Stand for Children. We were able to get that. That was one of our 10 provisos. Last year, we did Open Doors, and we took that program from being a 9-month program to a year-round program because we know that children need to be, re-engaged through the summertime, especially Black males. We're not going to close the achievement gap as we drop them off in May. What are they doing in June, July, and August? So we had $1.9 million worth of funding. We ran 5850, which was a barrier reduction bill. We know that housing, food insecurity, Big Mama not being able to pay the light bill, that we know there are all sorts of things that cause young people to drop out of high school, that cause chronic absenteeism. So we had Republican John Braun sponsor that bill and run it so we can finally address the root causes of chronic absenteeism in school. We did 5904 with Senator Tawana Nobles. This was a great bill which extends our eligibility for things like Pell Grant, because we know that it takes Black and brown children longer to matriculate. And we want to make sure that one size does not fit all, and we respect that when it comes to our students. And so we are saying that we know that if you are a first time or a first generation graduate in your home, we wanted to have federal parity with those other programs on a federal level. So we work with Washington STEM, UW, WSU, all of these colleges, and say to those babies, we hear you. You need more time. We want to make sure that we give that to you, and you are not losing your financial aid if you don't graduate within 4 years. So if you need 6 years, let's make sure that the programs line up and there's funding for that. So many bills out of the 377 that we worked on and the 100 that crossed the governor's desk. You know, we had those 6 pillars we try to dismantle: generational wealth, digital equity, food insecurity, housing insecurity. Aaron 2086, which was the Office of Independent Investigations. We worked on that for 2 or 3 years with Representative Deborah Intiman. 1579 did not pass, but we got 2086 across the finish line. So making sure that we're looking at the whole wellness of community and we're tackling all of the issues.
Thank you.
I love that. So of all of these bills, I'm curious to know what was the most eclectic group of collaborators on a bill.
That's really difficult to answer, because with the Washington Build Back Black Alliance, we have a core group of about 20 organizations. Like we have both urban leagues, Tabor 100, the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective. We have little groups like the Breakfast Group, East Side for All Right. We have a group called ERA, which is made up of 90 community-based organizations. We have the Black child care workers, which are a group of Black women that keep children in their home. Some of them are open 24/7. I think about Miss Mary, who's down there in Tacoma, because, you know, like Black moms got to work. You talk about going to school, Stephanie, for your doctorate, somebody got to watch some babies. They're open 24/7. But we also have tribes. We have people that speak Tagalog. We've got communities that speak 52 languages, right? So how we collaborate, Stephanie, is that anyone that reaches out to us, we work with the LGBTQTI plus trans community on Senator Valdez's hate crime bill. We work with the Jewish community, but we also work with the Palestinian community. If there is an interest across this big, this state, 7.5 million Washingtonians, and there's a policy interest, we don't turn anybody down for partnership. We have worked with so many different people. All of the recognized tribes, but we also work with groups like the Wamish who don't have a federal designation. And so we have a big team at an open door. And our platform is really simple. If we have an issue, there's no code to our website. You don't need a special login. Log in and see what we do. Reach out to us at our info. If we're working on something and it speaks to you or speaks to the community, come on in. And that's how we've collaborated. I was going to tell you on 6105, you guys are going to laugh. It's called the Strippers Bill of Rights. We work with those girls. And people were like, don't clutch the pearls that I have on my neck. I said, and sex workers got to pay rent and they got to eat too, and they want to be safe in their work. And so I said, if you don't like it, don't go. But if a woman chooses to get up and that's where she wants to work, let me tell you what she wants. She wants safe working conditions. She wants to be able to unionize. She wants to be able to have good bottle service and good tips, because the girl that's a stripper today is going to be a lawyer or a doctor tomorrow. It's not my job to judge. It's to make sure that whatever that job is, she's safe, and that bill passed at 6105. And what was really funny when you asked me that, soon to be Dr. Stephanie, them girls brought that poll down to the Capitol and said, let me show you what it did. Okay, so this is the most eclectic group that we work with. People were like, y'all down here working with the strippers? I said, they got to eat and pay rent too. Okay, well, we support all women.
That's awesome.
We support all women. Yeah, honey, when I saw the poll go up at the Capitol, I said, it's on and popping, not Aaron, it's on and popping down here. It's on and popping, it's live. I said, the girls brought the poll down to the Capitol, because at the end of the day, I said, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness comes to us all.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to us all. They see their dancing as a form of art. They want to be respected in their workplace. These ladies were advocating for these male-owned establishments to treat them fair and with equity and to have agency over their bodies. As women, I said, however you may feel about the art, we can all agree that they should have agency and they should be well compensated. They should not come to work and be making less when they got on the pole than when they got off. We can all agree that was equity.
Yes.
So past that, and that was another one that took 4 years to get their Bill of Rights passed.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems with, to parallel it with what's going on in the news today about, talk about equity and pay, what's going on with our professional athletes, our professional female athletes, and I don't know if y'all all saw the, $368,000 for 4 years worth of work. The whole notion of equity, so important. So it's really interesting and glad to hear. Speaking of equity, Paula, I saw during session, you had sent out a note to a lot of folks. I actually got it from you, and I think we got it from Ollie as well, about the Office of Equity. Can you give us an update? Because I know you were advocating for Megan Matthews' confirmation, and I don't think that happened. And so
No.
did it happen? Why didn't it happen? And what's the status of that office going forward here in Washington State?
Well, we're entering what we have as a changeover in government. Obviously, Governor Inslee is the outgoing governor. Jamila Taylor has left Chief of Staff. She's over as the Chief Administrative Officer of Washington State Employees Credit Union. And what we've seen is just what happens when you have a 3-term governor leave, a lot of changeover. What we often don't talk about is the turnover in state government as a whole. So 30% of the state government is turning over. The Senate, Andy Billick is the majority leader. He is leaving. He's retiring. Karen Kaiser, long-serving Senator, Labor and Commerce, she's retiring. Sam Hunt is retiring after 32 years. Mark Mullett, chair of Capital Budget, is retiring. Kevin Vandewedge. So I say all of that to say this. In a year where you're going to see a new governor, a new insurance commissioner, a new attorney general, where you come in and the priorities, there were very few confirmations this year. The expectation and the tone was Bob Ferguson is going to come in, and what happens when a new governor comes in, and this is not a slight to anybody, whether it was Director Matthews, and I said this to DES, and I've said this to OMWB, said this, there are 191 agencies. On day one, they will all be asked to do one thing: tender your letter of resignation. The governor will then decide who stays and who goes, because we've not had a wholesale change in government in Washington State for 12 years. The new governor, whoever he may be, will then decide who he wants to be those new people in those positions. Two things are going to happen. It'll be the opportunity for the Black and Brown community to say, hey, we've been led by a whole bunch of white folks and a whole bunch of positions for a whole lot of times. If you like status quo, keep them. I personally am saying to Bob Ferguson, who I think will end up being the next governor, they can go on by the by. Thank you. Thank you for your service. With Director Matthews, I think what happened on that committee is she came into the Office of Equity, and her focus was, as many of us do when we come in and we do DEI work, we do human resources work, was introducing herself to the team, hiring, backfilling positions, and focusing on the work. It wasn't on the political work of walking around that hill and meeting the folks that needed to confirm you. And so the truth of the matter was there weren't votes for a confirmation. The committee that needed to hold a confirmation, they simply weren't familiar enough with her to hold a vote. I mean, that's just the truth. And what
do you feel that that with the change in leadership, the governor leadership this next year, do you feel, if it is Bob Ferguson, do you have insight that he will support continuing with an Office of Equity?
Absolutely, and Director Matthews will be confirmed. Our, breaking news here, our office has taken over the confirmation of Director Matthews. We will take her to all 39 legislative districts and introduce her to every person, because there will be a wholesale turnover in government. And what we've said is you have to meet not only every senator, but you have to meet every person running for state rep. May the 12th is the deadline for those positions, I said, and so people are continuing. We saw our good friend, former Speaker Frank Chop, announce that he's not coming back after 30-something years. So I think as people tender their resignations and leave, and we find out through the process who's staying, she will need to, not just her, all 191 heads are going to need to be out introducing themselves. And I'll tell you why I think that is good for all of us. They need to be out introducing themselves to the community. They are not elected officials, but they are too earning the right to keep their position. Because Cindi, this is what's going to happen. You all are going to decide whether or not they stay, because you're going to go to the next governor and say whether or not you want those people. And so if they're not known in community, if their work product isn't known, you know what you guys are going to be doing? You're going to be saying to the next governor, we don't want that person to run our agency. You know, Bob Ferguson is committed to the Office of Equity. The Senate is committed to keeping the Office of Equity. There were zero conversations on the Hill about getting rid of equity. Anybody saying that is a lie. This is where they were. We want the next governor to make that decision, because even if we confirm these folks today, they may all be out in 7 months. So let's not worry about it today.
What are examples of other, I mean, I think it's really interesting. I've not heard anybody talk about this yet, about how much turnover is going to be occurring with the change in leadership. And so maybe because I wasn't paying attention to politics before 12 years ago, but what are examples of other agency heads that will need to be reappointed or reapply for their jobs or become available, I guess, is my first question. And then the second part is, how do other people who are not politicians get involved and get to a place where they can be considered for some of these roles? And so, for example, so I'll let you answer those first. How do you get visibility for that? And is it every seat, every leadership seat that is open? So Department of Commerce, Department of Transportation.
Super easy. And I love this question. And I mean, no harm and no offense to anybody out there who's going to see your show. Everybody in a position today, you should be worried about your job. Everybody is replaceable. Someone asked me, I'll give you an example. Ed Prince is my friend. Someone said, is he going to lead the Commission on African American Affairs under Bob Ferguson? I said, I don't know. He'll be asked to tender his resignation. I have been asked who would be good for that job. I see 3 women right now who could do it. He's been there for 11 years. And that's not to say we don't want Ed to stay. That's to say, I've already been asked who's next.
Yeah, that's an important job. It's really important.
That job, everybody should be polishing up their resume and expecting to not stay, because they have been in those positions for a very long time. What a new governor, and I say this as someone who has worked with and for 5 presidential administrations, what new people want is not the old bread that you make French toast with. They want the bread for the fresh sandwich. And so WashDOT, love Roger Millar. That job's going to be open. Commerce, if I'm Mike Fong, I'm not even finishing unpacking my box. Okay? Every job. If I'm Ross Hunter,
yes. I was going to ask about his. I'm like, is that how we're going to finally deal with him?
I've got Penske on the left and U-Haul on the right, and baby, the boxes is packed because I know I'm not sick. Like, I'm not even waiting for Ferguson to ask me to resign. The letter's already typed up. Tell him I got one of Jay's pens he can sign it with, because you know he is the first one that's going to be out the door. No confidence, no hope, no. Look, we ain't even going to thank him. We're like, just get, okay? Because you got okay?
Oh, my God. For people who don't know this inside joke is actually because we have a joke of you just have to Google Ross Hunter, and you'll see the conflict that has gone on and how people like that keep their jobs. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
But,
whoever's running employment security, I know some good movers. You shouldn't even wait. You should go ahead right now and be on Indeed, because Indeed you won't be there. I'm just saying, you know. Indeed, saying, I mean, because
Indeed you won't be there.
You won't. Indeed you will be looking for work on whatever the says after election, because some of you are so bad. We're like, girl.
Well, how do people, like, we had a listener ask the question, like who will replace? How do people put their name in the hats for these roles? I mean, how will there be a transparent process that the public can take a look at and say, I'm interested in this, and how? And Ferguson's not going to know the majority of. He'll know the folks that are in the circle of politics now, but if you are not in the circle of politics, or you're not playing politics and you're interested in it, how do you get to be visible and apply for that? I mean, I don't know if that's a Paula question or not, but
Once a month, the AG has a gathering at his home, and at the Washington Athletic Club. It's by invite only. I'm happy to give up my seat or invite one of you. Those gatherings, he doesn't have more than 25 people. He has intimate, personal conversations about such topics. I've known Robert Watson Ferguson for a long time, that I know his Christian name. He has a group of people that he trusts. I'm one of those people. I have a short list and it just is called Get Out. And I'm keeping that to hand to him when he wins and go. And on the backside of it, it's going to say Get In. And that's what I'm doing. I'm talking to people because there are some amazing, brilliant and Black people. We had a luncheon for him with St. Gregoire, and we invited some wonderful people that are in jobs today that I felt he needed to keep. And I sat some of those Black and brown women at my table. The table only held 10, and I've said to people, because I think I reached out to you, Cindi, and I said, you got next. We have other events coming up. I know who those women are, and they're all going to get their turn, because then we had some time where I gave them all FaceTime. I said, I can go to Bob's house. I see him all the time. I don't even need the FaceTime. Go on in there. Director Matthews was one of them. I said, go on in there and talk to him. He already knows you're on the get in list. I said, but I got to get out list. Right? And he knows his own list. And so those people that he has not met, I've taken him to Eastern Washington, to Tri-Cities. I've taken him to Spokane. Like, we're making sure that he meets, because Black people are not just in Puget Sound. Black people are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's so many diamonds in the rough when we talk about who's going to handle educational policy, who's going to handle things like L&I, workforce development, all of these things impacting our community where our voices are not heard. They're not just at the director level. They're like, when you look at they're undersecretary positions. There are 191 state agencies. I don't know if people know that. There are 191 agencies in this state. There are plenty of opportunities for Black women and Black people and brown people. And so I'll give you my email address, Cindi, at the end, info@fmsglobalstrategies.com. I am working with, I'm on CDRT and some other groups working to compile that list. I think I have 300 Black and brown women on the list. Do not be shy. I already knew. Who does not know who Dr. Aaron Jones is? Who does not know who Stephanie is? You're already on the list. And so I'm giving his people that list and saying, if you don't know these folks, here are their email addresses, here are their phone numbers. Reach out to them, because with 191 opportunities, there's something these amazing women can be doing.
And please add Sam Coleman, who is our producer here, who's interested in politics.
Absolutely. But we build a list, and we have to open doors. I mean, there will be political director positions, large cabinet positions, small cabinet positions, advisory cabinet positions. There's political director positions in every agencies. As I said, and we have what we call right now the mass exodus. There's my Rolodex that I call, and it's like, oh, girl, she left 6 months ago. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're already leaving. Like it's the Titanic. The deck chairs are empty because a lot of them have already jumped off the ship. The band's playing. It's like, oh, they're already serving the wine. This is the part where the bow is up and the ship is just going down because it's already off of it. And so we're already trying to assemble the list, because government, our government said we have term limits. And because there has not been term limits, we need to seize the moment, ladies. This is going to be our opportunity and our lifetime to put our people in a position. I can tell you from an equity standpoint, I've never met somebody like Bob Ferguson, who is so committed to us and the issues that we care about, and that's pure, that's honest, that's sincere, and it's not lip service.
Who else is running for governor? Isn't Mark Mullet running also? Is that right?
district, and he's wonderful, and he's not going to win, but I love him, and I'm so glad that he owns a bunch of Ben and Jerry's, so he'll have steady employment after he loses. And I love Mark. I'm gonna give some ice cream to Mark because I need to make sure he has work. Dave Reichert, lovely, crazy Republican gentleman, and Simi Bird. I'm from the South, and we say crazier than a sprayed roach, so he's not going either.
Okay. Any is Dave Reichert, is that how you say his name? Is he the only Republican that we know of that's running?
Well, he's running against Simi Bird, and right now he's losing to Simi Bird. And Simi Bird is to the right of Donald Trump. When I say crazier than a sprayed roach, I mean like there's crazy, then there's Simi Bird. And if the Republicans lift up Simi Bird, I just want to know, Erin, what are you wearing to Bob Ferguson's inauguration? Because I'm wearing black. What you wearing? That's where we're at with it. I'm like, Bob, don't do the vegan food that Jay did because it's not good. I'm going to need some cow. Like, I need some chicken or some steak. When they said Simi Bird, I was like, Stephanie, what are you wearing? Have you picked out your dress yet?
Right.
I'll see you. Like, we'll go to Bellevue and we'll just go ahead and get our outfits. I mean, if that's who they're running, we need to go ahead and talk about what kind of purse are you girls wearing?
Let's talk about your shoes.
Yeah. Are we doing red bottoms or what are we doing, girls? What are we wearing for the inauguration? Because we're going to have a great table. Let's just get to the part where he's already won. This is a joke at this point. I mean, we can go ahead and talk about whether it's Ragdoll or whether it's the young guy that called me the other guy. This because OSPR, that's a race. I mean, let's not talk about this with Simi Bird if that's who's running against Bob. That's one. I'm ready to move on to go. What's Patty going to do when she becomes insurance commissioner? Are we going to go ahead and roll back those credit scores for insurance? I don't want to talk about governor if they're running those two Republican clowns. It's a wrap.
And what was your comment about Mullet? You don't think he's a strong enough candidate?
Mark is a wonderful candidate. I've worked with Mark. I live in Issaquah. Like, this is my home. Mark wins this district by roughly 116 votes. It is math. I do this as my real job. When you go across the state, he does not have the name ID. If you can't win in King County in the 5th, you can't win Seattle. Mark does not win Seattle. And whoever wins the big bastion, which is the Puget Sound, which is Seattle, wins the race. Mark is not winning King County. So he's wonderful and he's good for business. But as we say, you got to be good in prime time across the state. Ferguson is really well respected in Eastern Washington. He does really well in places like Bellingham and Chelan. He does really well in Clark County. This is a 39 county race. You can't just be good in the 5th by 116 votes and expect to win. That dog is simply not going to hunt. But his pizza and his ice cream is really good if you're down here in this farm.
He is Ben and Jerry's and Zeke's, right?
Yeah, and Zeke's has got great pizza. I'm telling you, his pizza's great. Pizza's great.
There's a lot of folk, I don't want to deviate but there's a lot of folk that don't support or haven't supported Jay Inslee and so are looking for a very different type of leadership. And Ferguson, I personally don't know either one of them, so I don't have an opinion about either one of them. But what I hear is that Ferguson is viewed as one of, Jay's people, Jay's boys. And so do you think that there will be an influx of people who will not be happy with Ferguson as the preferred candidate? Erin, you're nodding.
Ferguson is respected all across the state. Wherever I go in the state, Ferguson, even by Republicans, is respected.
Okay.
He's his own person. I'll tell you the difference. And he says this, and Erin's probably heard the speech. He said that he was in this meeting where people were asked what was their biggest regret. And he said, governors always talk about what they didn't do. He said, that'll never be his problem. He's bold. This is the man that sued Trump when it was not popular. And this is what people have to understand. The job of an attorney general is to give a governor advice. He can't make the governor take it. And that's all I'm going to say. I've been in the rooms with His Excellencies, which is what you report to the governor. I've been the Black person that's had to say to the governor sometimes, you're the governor, you ain't the king. And Cindi, the trouble that's gotten me into. I'm the worst type of Black person. I'm educated. I got a drawer full of degrees and my own money. So I don't care how I speak to people. I'm from the South. I don't care. There's going to be one after you. Like I said, I've worked for 5 presidents. You better ask the other 4 what happened to them. And so I'm not, I'm the person that when I was doing a housing policy and I wanted the governor to do something and his chief of staff said he's not going to do that, I called him, what did I call him, Albert? think it was either impotent or incompetent. And his chief of staff said he didn't, feckless, and his chief of staff said he didn't like that. I said, they had to search for a synonym for the word that I really used.
Ooh.
Don't start with me. I said, you know, we were not going to put Black people out on the street because he was afraid to expand the moratorium. I said, and I asked him nicely, when you don't respond nicely, you get a smoke from me. Do I look scared? I'm from the South. We're never scared. I'm not those people he can control. I don't care about sitting on your boards and stuff. I've sat on enough of them. So what I like about Bob Ferguson is I will never have to speak to Robert Watson Ferguson that way, because we already agree. You need to be bold. You need to lead. And there are things that we want as a Black community that you need to do. And we don't have time to sit around here and be asking people nicely. We've been doing that for over 400 years. What did it get us? Now we need to ask you firmly and sternly, and we need to have those movable KPIs and those results, because now we need outcomes.
Speaking of bold, what's going on, you know, when we want bold and effective and strong leadership, what has, especially that impacts Brown and Black communities, what's going on with the Black Caucus? We have heard zero coming out of, we've heard zero from them since session. So what's up with that, Paula?
I'll tell you this. The Black Caucus was, you know, and this is just me being non-biased. I will say this: the Black Caucus was extraordinarily effective, and I'm going to give you reasons why. Leadership is not about who has the title; it's about who does the work. The CRA was going to be undone this cycle by an amendment by somebody that I consider to be a friend of the community, so much that I'm not going to throw the person under the bus, because there's been so much miscommunication about that. But I picked up the phone and called Representative Jamila Taylor, Representative Paula Sardinas, who's vice chair of the caucus, and Representative Christine Reeves. And I said, we have an amendment that takes the Black community from the number one priority in the CRA and walks it back. Director Matthews is fighting to keep that in through the Office of Equity, receiving zero support from the Department of Commerce. It is in the Senate budget. If this were to pass when it comes to the House, you're going to have a very angry Black community. Representative Taylor, Representative Street, and Representative Christine said we got it. And that was taken out of the budget.
Where is David Hackney? Isn't he? Where is he in this process? Because he came on right before legislative session and talked to the community about what his plans were.
That was a big sip of tea.
Is that tea, Paula? Should I move to the next question?
No. Representative Hackney. How can I describe him? Boy. Oh, wow. David has been promoted to something that is a better use of his talents, and it won't be leading the Black Caucus. He's no longer the chair because I just think that didn't really suit his leadership. And so the Black Caucus today is being led by a Black woman, Representative Christine Reeves. David will be focused on whatever it is that David does well. We've not ascertained what that is, but that's what David's going to be focused on. And so we know, as Shirley Chisholm's movie is going to be coming out on 4/20, that when Black women are doing things, stuff gets done.
Thank you for explaining that, because I just wanted to make sure the community knows what's going on, right? Because yes, I appreciate you.
There were a lot of things, like I said, when I say Senator Tawana Nobles, when I say Representative Julia Reed, when I say Representative Christine Reeves, Representative Jamila Taylor, when I say Representative Deborah Entenman on 2086, start catching that. And again, this is not in any way to demean or emasculate Black men. Ladies, it's Black women down there putting in that work. And the proof is in the pudding when you look at the bills passed and who's doing what. When the Black community needed some stuff, and Representative Paula Street, he got a $500,000 appropriation for Berber Place. He got money for the Breakfast Group. I mean, that young man, I hope all of these organizations giving out awards. If you're not giving Representative Street an award, shame on you. Leadership on top of leadership on top of leadership. But let me not underscore the work that your Black women are down there doing. So we wish Representative Hackney the best.
Other questions, ladies?
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, no, Paula, we appreciate you coming on and doing this periodically with us and helping us to gain insight as to what's happening there, because it's, for the general public, we don't hear or know kind of outcomes of what's happening. So thank you for providing that level of understanding and really informative. I knew it was going to be insightful. I hadn't even thought about the fact that we have such massive turnover happening for all these positions this year. So we have a huge opportunity now.
Well, and I'll tell you before I go to power that you have three things. Have Representative Reeves on. She's looking to hear from the Black community on what the community wants their agenda for the Black community to be. And she does not want the legislators to create it. She wants the community to create it, because she actually wants to go into session with an agenda. Imagine that for us. That's number one. Number two, we don't have a majority leader. And so if we could have, for the first time in history, a person of color vying for that position in the Senate. Also things like operating budget chair. Senator Mullet was the chair of capital budget. Why is that important? When you think about our nonprofits, that's where all of the funding for that stuff comes from. Cindi, you and I've talked about that before. Yeah. Senator Yasmin Trudeau, who is a woman of color, is vying to lead that. So I would start having those folks on and having accountability tests and saying, why should we support you for these positions with this turnover? And in this year, when we have this election, they're going to do something called reorganizing. What does that mean? That means then the speaker will be up for a new vote. There may be young people looking to run for speaker. So you're going to have all of the leadership positions will be up for a new vote. You can put people of color into positions of power, chairmanships of committees, leadership positions, new positions under a new governor. 2025 is really our year of change. Cindi,
Awesome.
You want to use your voice to quarterback that change.
Yeah, that's awesome. We would definitely will. I know Stephanie and I just talked about that earlier today about some of the folks that you're mentioning, about getting them on here really soon. I want to make sure, because one of our viewers is asking a question to you, Paula, before we let you go. Who are the three people that could come in and radically change education in Washington?
There's this wonderful gentleman, and I say this with tremendous respect. I've worked with OSPI and I've had a great relationship, so I don't in any way want to impugn the current superintendent, but I do want to say with full transparency, if you have not met Mr. Reed, the young man that's running, I'm going to be having coffee with him. He is impressive.
I just did a live with him literally 5 minutes before the show started.
That is an opportunity there. I think we have to be transparent about some of what I saw happen this session, some of the good bills that died. We have to have a real transparent conversation about OSPI and the direction of the agency and the relationship the agency has with the legislature. That's number one. Number two, we have to have a transparent conversation about the educational committees in the legislature, how those committees are being run, what that looks like, and again, about leadership that might be staying too long. In our relationships, even with some of our labor unions, we've enjoyed working with WEA and others, but we've also had some relationship with some of the charter school programs that are going on and the opportunities that education creates. And so I think looking at, first of all, what does an OSPI need to look like in 2025? Who needs to chair K through 12 in the House and in the Senate, what that needs to look like, because that impacts our children, and how do Black and brown parents need to show up in our relationships with the unions and with charter schools, and how do our voices need to be magnified, because Rainier Scholars is doing a great job, right? Mm-hmm. And some of the legislation that we see coming out, it's not helpful to our children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please, Senate Education Committee. Who is that? Tomiko Santos?
Well, no, Tomiko Santos is in the House, and Senator Wellman in the Senate. And I think people need to make sure that they're weighing in and they're having a voice. So this year, when they go through reorganization, this is where you start weighing in on who you want those changes to be. If you don't like the policies being passed, you must change the chair.
Yep. Well, is the representative chair in Tomiko Santos up to be? I mean, she's somebody who's been in office for 16 years, and we haven't seen.
You are not going to change educational, and I say this with tremendous respect. Sharon is my friend, and so I say this, but I also want to be honest. We bring some good bills that she doesn't hear. We bring some good bills that she kills. You are not going to get anything done as long as she's the chair. if you are a Black and brown parent and you want some change, you're going to have to change that position.
I think there's been an effort to try that. How is that? Somebody has to run against her, right? To be
No,
able to.
if she can keep her seat. If you need to have a speaker that's willing to put somebody else in there, and if you don't have that, then you need to have a different speaker.
And who's Speaker Jenkins?
Speaker Jenkins.
Is she done this session or at the end of this year too?
She has to run for speaker when they reorganize in November. And so if you are not happy with education, then Speaker Jenkins will be having town halls. She'll be having meetings. You need to go to those town halls and you need to tell Lori you are not happy with the educational chair if you're not happy with it. This is what I tell people. It's okay to dissent. We're not slaves. It's okay to say, I'm not happy with that. We had our financial literacy bill die. And that bill passed the House and the Senate, ping pong back. That bill died with an hour left in session. It died at 3:30 on Sunday die because we could not cut the deal we needed to cut with Representative Tomiko Santos. That meant that Black and brown and tribal children will not be getting financial literacy education. I've worked on financial literacy for over 30 years.
How does the public find out about, I mean, several things, right? We do this show, part of our mission here is to bring people like you on so that we get this knowledge and information out to communities. Because
bring on Senator Mike Pelliciotti, he ran the bill, and ask him why did 1915 not pass and what we need to do. And Mike Pelliciotti worked on this, but before that, there was a treasurer by the name of Dwayne Davidson that's worked on this. And he was a Republican treasurer. Financial literacy is not a partisan issue. Ask him why Black and brown children graduate with more money in student loan debt than any other race of children. Ask him why we don't have financial dollars for down payment assistance for our home. All of that's tied to financial literacy. Ask him why Black and brown credit scores like 40 to 60 points behind white people. It's FinLit. Why are Black and brown people holding up FinLit bills? It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when our own educational chair is the reason a bill doesn't pass, we either need to speak to her very sternly or we need to kindly ask her to step aside. Because I know, like, my children are privileged. They all have 800 credit scores. They've come from the benefit of my hard work. I want the people that don't have what I have and for their children to get taught that. Not everybody knows how to balance a checkbook. Not everybody's mother was a banker. I worry about those kids that don't know how to fill out their FAFSA, who don't know that their college should be free, who are taking credit cards in college when they should not, who are graduating a four-year university with $200,000 in student loans with a matching maxed out credit cards because they didn't get FinLit. Those are the children that got hurt when that bill didn't pass. No Black or brown woman should have been holding up that bill. We need some change.
Yeah, we do. We've all known that. This was it's so helpful, Paula. I mean, this was such great information to get out. We will be, or let me just rephrase that. Sam, who is here with us, will be clipping up and getting out a lot of these key points that you just highlighted today so that we can get it spread into the community. And I'll talk, Aaron and I and Stephanie, I'll talk about how we can do more, particularly to advertise upcoming those open roles, how we can filter names of people. Like, I think all of us have people in our own circles who we've brought to events and functions and try to get people interested, and they experience things that have turned them away. So I think right now is a great opportunity to start introducing these open seats and start trying to get some interest from the public. And I definitely will follow up on Jenkins for the education one. I will personally love to attend that one.
She's got a town hall coming up on May 1st. I'll send it to you. I'll send you Treasurer Pellicciotti's information. You guys have him on the show. You three women will be great with Mike. He does stuff. I will invite you to just and share my information with Aaron, Stephanie, any person in any elected position. You're welcome to come. I'm happy to make those introductions. One of the things that I've always said, power is not what you store for yourself, is what you can share.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that we are not creating silos and that we're not creating gatekeepers. I don't like that. If I know somebody that you don't, or if I have a number that you need, you can have it. We are stronger collectively as Black women when we share the power. Every woman on this call is a dynamite in her own right. Why do I need to have Bob's number and Cindi, you don't need to have it? That's stupid to me. We all, you know people that I don't. And so what we need to do so that he can be the most powerful and most effective governor that he can be is we need to share information and make sure that we're getting people in those rooms so that we are not talking 8 years from now about how unhappy we all are. My kids have graduated. They're off doing their thing right now. I owe a debt of responsibility to the children that are coming behind me. The same thing, like I was named to the 2117 steering committee today because we're protecting the environment, trying to protect the climate change and all of that stuff, right? I'm 51. I'm trying to pull up the next young person behind me because I was like, I'm going to be retired in 10 or 15 years. Who's got next? I'm not trying to store up some power so I can be like, you know, God rest and Sam Hunt retired at 82. That's not going to be me. Okay. I will see you walking around with a little thing like that on the Senate floor. No, I won't be. I'm going to be someone. No, because I'm bringing some young person behind me going, girl, you got next one because I'm bringing you right along. We should not want to be out here at 82 doing this. We should be training up the next generation going, hey, you got next one because I'm going to show you. Share the power.
And to that point, like, how do we shake the table? Because it feels like there's this sense of I've got next. I waited my turn, right? And so it's my turn with some of these establishment folks versus this newer blood that you're talking about. And so how can we shake the table?
I love that question, Stephanie. I grew up in 2016. Like I said, I live in Issaquah. And the best thing that happened to me, and I told Cindi this, I said, when I got here, I got the, you're not from here, you're not one of us. And I thank God for that because I was like, ooh, and I don't want to be. And so, you know, we got to stop trying to sit down at tables that when you get up, they're talking about people and not ideas. And you got to stop trying to get into rooms that when you get in, you're not going to even like the people when you get in those rooms. I created my own rooms and I built my own table. I was like, that table is glass and tacky. I like wood. I created my own table. And so now what happens at Paula's table, the table that Paula built, there's room for everybody. Like everybody's trying to fight to get at my table. I was like, now I see those people that didn't want me at their table. And I'm like an old motel song. Honey, I just walk on by. I walk on by. I just walk on by and I smile. I don't have a thing bad to say about them. I just walk on by and I wait. Because they're at table 1 or 2. They're back at table number 99. I just walk on by. They're back at coat check. Okay? I walk on by. I go, hello. I saw you at ballet when I came in. I walk on by. Because I have worked hard and I have built my table. I was texting Cindi. I said, did you see me? I'm standing up here at the podium at the White House, girl. They can't
You did.
They can't even get the background check this far. I walk on by. We've got to stop fighting to get into rooms that when we get in there, we're like, what are we even doing here? We don't like half the people in this room. Build your own table. Walk on by. Like I told you, I don't live in Seattle. It's a great city. I live in Issaquah. Why? Because when I first moved here, those folks told me I wasn't welcome there. I'm good. That's why I moved to the Quah. I said, well, what's something that's in proximity? See, I can go to Bellevue. They have valet parking there.
It's a great question though, Stephanie, because you know, Paul, I appreciate, you know, your response, the reality of what Black women, I mean, we ain't got time for that conversation tonight, but the reality of what is really happening amongst us as Black women, that unity is not totally there. And there is not a reaching back and trying to help others get, you know, I'm senior now too. And so, you know, when you're trying to help other people, but you have, you know, this wall that's put in front of you that folks don't want to open that door, even though they sit on this show or other places and nod their heads that they are collectively working together. That in fact is not happening here. We should address that. Paul, you and I have talked about that several times about
You do.
how do we address that whole issue. And here we have this opportunity now, particularly with this massive regime change that's occurring. We have an opportunity to put a lot of folks in power if we can sort out who's the best fit for what, and then help propel her into that role and not be jealous of someone else who is stepping into those positions. We should help her. So a whole nother show.
And Stephanie, you become the best at what you do because I remember like I was in this organization, say who it was, but I was clamoring because I felt like I had so much I wanted to offer. And they made it clear to me that I didn't have nexus. They had already anointed and appointed, even though I had more experience than that person were anointing and appointing. And so, you know, you can't tell, but I'm small. I'm like 5'1", right? So I just was sitting there. I'm not a demure person, but I was just like, oh, okay, they don't see me. This is how God worked. I'm checking my phone. My friend is like on the national level, this organization where I'm trying to be seen. And she said, honey, don't even worry about that. Girl, the next week I was at the White House. Had usurped local, regional, and went straight to national. Was at the White House doing my thing. That's what will happen when you're good at what you do, and you don't have to say pick me, because God already chooses. People appoint, God anoints. And so I was not even worried about, like, y'all don't even have to see me, because now you see me. You see what I'm saying? All I got to say is now y'all see me. So you just let people do their thing, and then you focus on head down, what is the work? And that's what I told my grandmother used to always say, some people come to till the soil while others come to eat the fruit. You need to know the difference. Tilling the soil is where things are nurtured and they grow. And then some people are going to show up when that thing is growing. They're just there to pick the fruit. She said, baby, know the difference. We are the people that are tilling the soil because we need it to grow. Know who came just to eat your fruit. That's okay. Sometimes you give them a little bit, and then you just say, okay, you're full now. Keep it. That's okay. That's okay.
Powerful. Paula, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us tonight. This was, I'm thrilled that you gave us so much insight. Aaron and Steph, do you have any final words for Paula before we're at the hour? So, and I know everybody's tired, so we can do some final words and close the show out tonight and pick back up. Any other final words for Paula before we sign off tonight? And to our audience, anybody, any final questions that you want to ask of Paula before we let her go?
I think this was really practical. And I think, I know, because I talked to the ladies before the show, it's been a tough day today, and it has felt overwhelming. And it's just good to be reminded about the just practical things that can be done, the practical ways to engage. Because I think sometimes we see this big thing, it feels so overwhelming. And just to be able to see, okay, there's the stuff that I can do. There's the stuff that you can do. There's the stuff that we can do. Was really important for me to hear tonight.
Most definitely. I really appreciate this conversation because we know that everything that's reported out in the media doesn't give us the full context. So just really appreciate you giving us a behind the scenes peek.
Yep. I echo that too, Paula. Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. We'll look forward to staying in touch and bringing on some of the other folks and following through with some of the recommended ideas you gave about people who are interested in other positions. So we love you for doing this with us this evening. To our audience who joined us this evening, thank you so much for being a part of this. We can't do this without you, so we appreciate that you're tuning in, you're listening, you're learning, and you're helping us to get the word out. If you know of people, I'm just going to make that pitch, that you think would be interested in any of these appointed seats that we need to get some visibility for them, please reach out to Paula or myself. My email address is Cindi@cindibright.com. I'd be happy to get it to Paula or Stephanie or anybody here on the show. We're here to help, make things better for our community. And we're here to help spread word, information, and make the world better for all of us. So big opportunity coming up here this year with a turnover in leadership on every level. And as Paula said, they'll be looking for jobs on Indeed, because Indeed, many of these people are not coming back. So thank you for joining us all this evening. We look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Have a good week.
Half that up in sacks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.